Hi, it's Kai, and today we are going to be doing a soft grunge type of fall makeup tutorial. Honestly, this wasn't exactly what I had envisioned when I sat down to record today, but this is what we came up with. And I mean, it wasn't too far off from what I wanted my vision to be, but I think it just came out a little bit different. But I do really like this. I think I'll definitely be rocking this look or look similar to it for this fall time. And if you want to see how to achieve this look, then just keep on watching. Okie dokie, as usual, my eyes are primed and I think I want to do kind of a warm-ish smoky eye, but I don't want it to be like orange or like brown going into orange. I don't know. I'm pulling out the Melt Cosmetics 27 palette. This is one of the palettes that I bought out from my last video, which was switching over to my fall products, and I feel like I can get something that's like maybe a little warm and pinky versus a more orangey smoky eye, like maybe using some of these shades down here and then blending them into maybe these three. I don't know. We'll see where this takes us, honestly. For now, I'm going to start with a fluffy crease brush in the shade Nip Slip. Very risque, and I'm putting that at the very edge of my eye or of my crease, kind of almost in the lid, not lid, what is this? The eye, brow, you know, where normally you would put a little bit of a brow highlight. Since I have the blonde brows thing, which are looking more like salt and pepper right now, I need to re-dye them, but I just don't feel like doing it, honestly. Maybe I need to also zoom in just like a little bit on the eyes. But I do feel like the blonde brow gives the illusion that this isn't my brow bone actually, that kind of the brow itself is where my actual brow bone is. So I feel like I can blend my shadows a little bit further up my eye. And this is a little bit of a warm peachy shade, but I'm hoping that some of the more burgundy tones end up shining through a little bit more. And then I'm going to take a smaller, more, not quite pointed, but you know, it's just a little bit more detailed, more precise rather. And I'm going to take this Downtown shade that was next to it. It is kind of like a bricky shade, but it's also got some mauvey pink undertones to it. And I have to remind myself sometimes that my skin does pull the warm tones out a little bit more. So sometimes things don't exactly go as to vision, but that's okay. This one is definitely pulling maybe a little bit more warm than what I originally wanted for this, but I still think we can salvage it. And I'm mainly concentrating that in the crease area. That might have been a little too much. Let me get my other brush and blend. And I mean, this is a step that I would do anyway, but just didn't intend it to do it right then. Okay, and on another brush that's a little bit pointed but also still fluffy, I'm now going to take the shade Thick because I think it's a little bit cooler toned than maybe these two that we previously used, and I'm going to see if layering that on top of the two shades that we already have in the crease gives us a little bit more of that mauvey vibe that I had wanted out of this. Yeah, I definitely think this side is looking a little bit more almost pinky burgundy and this one is looking rustier. I feel like if I really wanted to lean more into the neutral to cool tones, I probably could have done one more thing as my general like crease or blending it up to my brow bone shade and then kind of gradiented this way. Maybe I will also end up doing that just because. Why not? There can never be too many grungy, smoky makeup tutorials. Or maybe there can, because tutorials are some of the videos that don't get really watched on makeup YouTube anymore, despite the fact that on other platforms people beg for them. I can make an entire essay about how the people in some of the Reddit beauty communities, and I haven't been in all of them because there are some of them that I've just heard, you know, kind of stay away from them, that they're mainly drama. But in some of them, when they do talk about creators, it's just like, why? There are people literally who are making the type of videos, like there are posts consistently about, I can't find any creators who are genuine anymore. I can't find any creators who do tutorials. Everyone does all the same stuff. Everyone does first impressions, da da da. And it's just like, they're there. It just might require you to look a little bit deeper than what the algorithm spits out at you. It might require you to watch someone who only has 2 or 3 views on their video. It might require you to follow and subscribe to someone who only has 200 subscribers instead of 2 million subscribers. And again, I feel like a lot of people, influencers get caught up in the numbers, don't get me wrong, but I feel like audiences almost get caught up in the numbers of creators even more than the creators themselves. And you end up with this cyclical loop of, again, people saying, we don't ever see the content that we want anymore. But then when people are putting out that type of content because it's not getting pushed, and people, the same people who are complaining about that content not being available, aren't actively looking for it. They're just expecting it to be fed to them because that's what algorithms on social media have become. It's just like you're kind of both sides of the same coin. And you guys know I'm not a person to necessarily stick up for influencer culture and things like that. I feel like my channel, what is that? I don't know what word I was trying to say, but I feel like my channel is focused on, you know, using what you have. Sometimes I have new products come in, being honest about those products, and that's just who I am. I can't turn that chip off in my brain, unfortunately, and it gets me in a lot of trouble. While I'm talking about all this, let's just do my eyes. Let's go in with Moonchild, which is a deeper burgundy, and I might end up mixing it with this shade Whiskey Neat as well. Also, brands, bring back the whimsical palette shadow names. Some people don't like it. Some people feel like it's extra. I kind of miss having a palette with names that are out there, not just basic sand, fog, you know? But anyway, I'm gonna start with Moonchild, and if that is a little bit more, I don't hate it, but I feel like the Whiskey Neat shade may deepen it up the way that I want it, even though it looks almost like this shade would be deeper. Sometimes layering, again, something that's more neutral toned on top ends up making the shade look deeper, in my opinion. I don't know what it is about red toned browns. They can sometimes, maybe because they meld with my skin pretty well, just not quite give me the smoky or the complete smoky effect that I want. And I'm putting that all over my lid and up into, well, not really up into my crease, but I will eventually blend up with one of the other blending brushes that I had, whichever one had the thick shade. That's the thick. Anyway, as I was saying, it's two sides of the same coin. You can't be mad that all creators are putting out the same types of videos if you're not going to try to find the creators who are not putting those same types of videos, or just expect that the algorithm is going to serve that to you. Let's layer Whiskey Neat on top. Actually, no, that didn't deepen it up. So I might have to grab into another palette, which of course you don't need this exact palette to make this look. You can probably find some shades in your collection in a palette, in single shadows, whatever your collection looks like, that have similar shades to this to replicate it. And of course you can always adjust it to your skin tone. If you don't like these more burgundy-ish type of colors and reds, you can definitely go with something a little bit more neutral to cool. I intended it for it to be a little bit pinky, but I wanted it to be almost pinky and cool. I don't know how that was configuring in my brain. Maybe I was just going for something more neutral toned in the first place and we ended up here. But I do think I want a somewhat deeper brown is the thing. So is Cypress Umber deeper than Moonchild? I feel like they're actually almost a similar shade. Maybe this is a little deeper. We'll put that right here in case that's what I want to use. And I know this Oma Beauty palette has this Regal shade in it, which I feel like is deeper as well. Yeah, it also has a black shade, which I could maybe use to do a little blending. I don't think, yeah, this Dreamy 2 palette doesn't have something. And one that definitely has a deeper shade that I could use, and probably the best deeper shade in this that I could use, is the Jaclyn Hill palette. I think this is the one palette that in my last video it actually got cut out when I was talking about this. So I think we should use the Jaclyn Hill palette just off of that, you know, alone. Again, the original Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe. I'm sure some of you guys probably have something like this, or one of the Morphe palettes, or even this Morphe palette in your arsenal. And honestly, I probably could have done this entire look just with this one palette to start with. Okie dokie, so I am going to take this shade, which looks like almost a deep mahogany, even black and purple. It's the shade Soda Pop. Actually, I feel like that's a pretty accurate shade for like a soda, almost Dr. Peppery type of color. And on a, what is this called? Shader brush. I'm picking that up, and I am first going to just put it closer to the lash line, especially when there's more on my brush, and then slowly, you know, work it upward. That way I'm not packing too much product on my lid and it'll blend out and gradient up and it won't get too dark and smoky. But yeah, you see how deep that is? I like that. And a tip for doing eyeshadow, especially if you're a person like myself who has curly lashes, sometimes a brush that has a little bit of flatness to it, if you need to get a shadow or something close to the lid, like flip that brush. You don't have to apply it. You don't have to be cute with it. Flip that brush around and tap it in there. Especially on this eye, I find it interferes more, maybe because coming from over here, there's already a little bit more, you know, leverage than flat. With, I don't know if that makes sense, just like the way that your hand is angled already. All that is to say, don't be scared to flip that brush, flip your wrist, do different motions. You don't have to, again, pat and do dainty and swipe and no. Sometimes when you're doing makeup, honestly, a lot of the time when you're doing makeup, especially if you want your makeup to actually come out good, you got to get a little bit down and dirty. And then with all of our different brushes, we're going to blend it out. So starting with just whatever is left on the brush from the first shade we use, I'm just patting that kind of around that deeper shade we just applied. And I actually am, I think, going to bring the deeper shade just a little bit further up to my crease, because of the fact that when I close my eyes, you don't get as much of that gradient, you know, or not close my eyes, when I open my eyes, you don't get as much of that gradient straight on. Like right now, it feels like, for me at least, it's just jumping from this deep color straight into the, what do you call it? There is a cat hair on my eye. So again, just taking the tiniest bit of it, and I am going to bring that up a little bit higher so that when I blend it out, you see how there is now that shade more in the crease. And again, that's why I like having the blonde brows, because I can end up blending shades a little bit further up and be able to create that gradient that makes a smoky eye not look so, well, I don't want to say not look so intense because it's a smoky eye, but just look like, you know, messy, smudgy, not really, and not in the good way, you know? And then of course, after laying that shade down, I'm gonna go back in and blend. Gonna add a little bit more right in here because it feels like that was a little sheer. It also feels like the shade is patching up a little bit, and I feel like I remember that about when I originally was using or trying the Jaclyn Hill or just Morphe palettes in general. There were some shades that no matter what I did, there was just a patch on my eye, and only on one eye, and it's right here, where I just feel like the shadow, and Morphe isn't the only palette or only, I guess, brand that happens with. I shouldn't specify Morphe or act as if Morphe is, but it is the one that it happened with. Like, I get it on camera, but on this side, I feel like I'm not really having that problem, but just right here, it feels like the shadow is just kind of sticking. And sometimes your makeup comes out that way. Sometimes that is just the way the cookie crumbles. I promise 99% of the time when people look at you, again, straight on, they're not going to be able to see some of those very particular mistakes or imperfections. Okie dokie, I like how this is looking, and now we are going to do just a little bit of black smudgy liner. I feel like you can't really do a makeup look, and I mean you can. I feel like this would look fine without liner, but I just feel like a little bit of black smudgy liner is what sets everything off. And of course we'll go back in and do stuff on the lower lash line, but that is not important, at least not right this second. I really like using this old Urban Decay brush. I think it was from the Electric palette as an eyeshadow smudger brush. So I'm just putting that on my brush. I'm not even drawing it on today because I want it to, again, be really nice and smoky, and putting it on your brush first and smudging it on creates more of that smokiness. And I'm trying to just diffuse that as close to my lash line as possible. I feel like It's maybe not a super big difference, but this eye with the liner, this eye without the liner, I feel like it just adds a little bit of shape and definition to everything. Okie dokie. And then my foundation routine is honestly similar slash the same as it's been because it's mostly my Project Pan products. So I'm going to test me just going off camera doing that part and then coming back. And admittedly, I also want to go eat my biscuit. So I am going to do that. But if you guys want to see my base and me actually doing my base each and every video, like I can do that. I just don't know if that is interesting or if that gets repetitive. So yeah, I'm gonna do my face and then eat my biscuit and come back for the rest. Okie dokie, my base is on. Like I said, it's very similar, if not the exact same, to my base in pretty much every single video. So all of my other tutorials include it, but I can also do like an updated base routine video, though it won't be much different than, again, my base in every single one of my makeup tutorial videos, down to the cat hairs stuck on my face. Anywho, we're gonna do the lower lash line. So dipping back into the Melt 27 palette, I think my hands are so dry, it's uncomfortable and it's making me feel like I can't do anything. I can't focus on anything. Okay, now that my hands do not feel like the embodiment of sandpaper, we are going to take the shade Nip Slip first, and I am even just going to use the first brush that I use that shade with and just really blow that out on the lower portion of my eye, and then kind of connect it out here, of course, because we're going to want to connect everything to what's on, the upper lash line. It's basically just replicating what we did earlier on the lid. And especially if you're a person like myself who has a lot of under eye creases and a pretty prominent kind of like under eye bag, I guess, I personally like putting a lot of eyeshadow on it. I feel like it's, again, accentuating it just like any other thing on my face. And I feel like I notice my concealer looking less creasy when I do things like that, instead of, I don't know, maybe it's just taking away some of that focus on the eye. So then I am going to I think we're going to do a mixture of the shade Downtown and Thick, since those shades are pretty close in color, just mainly have an undertone difference in them. And I'm putting that on the lower lash line as well, but just not as far down. Again, connecting it to the outer third of the upper lash line. And then on a more precise brush, I'm going to take the shade Moonchild, which was that first lid shade that we used. And I might not even dip back into the Jaclyn Hill palette, like that last Soda Pop shade we used from that palette, just because I feel like there's less space on the lower lash line anyway, so you really can't build up quite as much dimension. And the next step is going to be putting the smudgy black liner anyway, so I feel like this is the last part that we really need to gradient. Because there was more space on the upper lid, I feel like it's easier to pack a little bit more color, make a little bit more gradient, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm just talking gibberish at this point. And then where is the liner and liner brush, but I'm going to flip it around to the smaller side so that I can get it still smudgy, but a little bit closer to the lash line. I don't like putting liner on my waterline because 99% of the time it smudges my contacts. Even something like this Stila Smudge Stick waterproof eyeliner, I found this smudging as well. So again, I like to get as close to my lower lash line as possible without going in. Do I think smoky eyes with like the tightly rimmed black eyeliner that's almost like coal black liner and smudged out is absolutely beautiful? Yes, and I would, if it was feasible for my eyes, absolutely do that with this. If I were wearing my glasses, I might, take the chance to do it, but I really don't want my contacts smudging up today. I feel like it still adds the perfect bit of smoky depth without, you know, being too much. But that's pretty much it for the eyes. I don't think I want to do anything with the inner corner. Sometimes I do a inner corner highlight, but I think I'm okay with not having one today, which means we are on to blush. I want to see, because I have this CL, it's the Flush and Protect SPF 45 blush in the shade Blaze, and it's a pretty shade. I just don't know is it pink, like too pinky? I think it might work for today's purposes. I did get sent this, and it's a pretty nice formula. It's a matte blush, but it doesn't look super flat on the face. I feel like it's one where you can definitely tone it down, but you can also build it up pretty nicely on the face as well. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a more pinky tone to it. I feel like it's not quite as brickish as it is in the packaging, but that's okay. And I do like to, especially with smoky eyes or more dramatic looks, bring my blush kind of to the edge of my eyeshadow, just in this little area. I feel like, I don't know, I just like the way that it looks on me, I guess. And honestly, when I do deeper looks, I know that sometimes people say when you accentuate or do a more dramatic look on one part of the face to keep the other parts of the face more neutral. I'm a person who's just kind of like, go big or go home. To me, I feel like my face looks better if I do all out makeup or if I do very little / no makeup at all. And I also add a little bit on my chinny chin, and you guys saw me put some on my nose too. Now that my face is pretty much done, we can do my brows. I've been enjoying doing my brows after my foundation routine because then the brow gel helps get some of the gunked up foundation and eyeshadow and even blush out of the ends of my brows. And I'm honestly not thinking that I'm wanting a highlight with this. I'm kind of liking how, you know, matte everything is looking. So I am going to, before setting spray, still do faux freckles because I still like doing my faux freckles. I'm trying to use this Pseudo Labs Freckles. This is the deepest shade that they have, shade 03, which I feel like is a little bit too deep for my personal taste. So I've been using it while my skin is a little bit more tan to try to finish it up as much as possible. I prefer the shade 02 for myself, even though again, on my deeper skin tone, I don't feel like this looks bad at all. Now some setting spray. I've just been using this Milani Make It Last Original, which I can say, definitively I do like this setting spray, but this size, 2.3 fluid ounces, is so little. I feel like I've been using this for just a few weeks and I'm less than halfway done with it. And I know that I use quite a bit when I am setting my makeup. You're supposed to use quite a bit when you're putting on your makeup, you know, and I also sometimes use it when I'm using my sponge to, you know, wet my sponge, or when I'm blending out foundation, wet my foundation brush. But I just feel like this size, especially because I think it's like $8 or $9, I feel like this is basically a travel size, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, it is TSA approved because I think, isn't TSA under 3 milliliters or fluid ounces? But at one point they didn't have the jumbo size of this. Like, this was the only size you could get. So the fact that, and I'm sure it was cheaper when it first came out too. I don't know. I've just been really noticing the size of makeup products and how quickly you use them, and not just makeup products, but just products in general, and how quickly you use them when you don't have a big collection of them. Like, I already go through setting spray probably quicker than the other makeup categories because I only use one at a time. And even when I had a bigger collection of them, I was still using only 1 or 2 at a time. But I've just, again, when you really are using one product for an extended period of time, or every single day, or every single time you do your makeup, it does make you realize how quickly some things will, it's kind of like a catch-22. Let's just do mascara while I am yapping away. But sometimes it makes you realize how long it takes to finish up a product. For me, it's bronzer. The Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer is pretty much the only bronzer that I use. Have I dipped around here and there for Shop My Stash videos, for things like that? Yeah. But on the day-to-day, that is the main bronzer that I have been using in the past at least year, but I would say at least 2 years, because I put it, or almost 2 years, because I put it in my project pan sometime last year, if I'm not mistaken, even though I have been trying to finish it up unofficially for years. So that's a product that feels like it takes forever for you to finish up, even if you're focusing solely on that product, versus again, the setting spray, if you're using exactly one setting spray all of the time, you really do finish them up rather quickly, at least quicker than other makeup categories. And it makes me wonder if I only had one foundation, and yes, I am currently focusing on a foundation, but I feel like I bounce around all of my other categories a little bit more, or even concealer. I have mainly used the Flower Beauty Light Illusion because this is my project pan concealer, and I think I'm starting to notice it getting lower. Again, it's just like, how long does it actually take to use up certain products? That would be a really good experiment, but I know that I wouldn't be able to not grab for other things in my collection long enough to do it in a way that is scientifically a little bit more accurate than just, you know what I'm saying? Because if I'm going to test something like that, I want it to be as, again, accurate as possible. I don't want to just kind of throw something together and be like, yeah, so this is how long your foundation should last if you're using it every day. Like, no, if you're using how much of it every day, how long is it going to last? And, you know, things like that. But I could just be a nerd. And like I said, we are going to go big or go home. So I am going to do a burgundy red lip. To start, I think we're going to use this NYX Plum lip liner, but I want to get a lipstick out first because I didn't bring very many burgundy red lipsticks out, but that's because honestly, I have not been wearing a lot of burgundies. Or do I want to go a little bit more purple? I don't know. Let's try it. Why not? I think Kat Von D or KVD Beauty now is going completely out of business. So let's pay homage to them a little bit at least. So first we're going to use the NYX, I believe this is the Slim Lip Liner Pencil, and it's the shade Plum. It needs to be sharpened, as do most of my shit. And this might be a little bit more purple. So, okay, so I think I do want to go with something maybe a little bit more on the red side of purple than on the purpley side now that I am actually lining my lips. So we're going to try this. This is discontinued as well because my makeup collection is basically a makeup graveyard or an archive depending on how you look at it, but I have a lot of discontinued products just because I have been trying over the past few years to focus much more on using up what I have already than buying a whole bunch of new stuff. So realistically, I don't know how long I wasn't filming and I feel like that happens all the time. I wish my camera made a noise when it stops recording. I feel like that would be smart, you know? But anyway, in case we missed some or all of that, I lined my lips with this NYX lip liner. This is the shade Plum. And then on top of that, I put this discontinued Wet n Wild MegaSlicks Balm stain in the shade Truffle in Paradise, which is the color you see on top. But I did dab a little bit of it off, and now we're using the Half Magic gloss in Problem Child because I thought it would give this a really cool shift. And again, it does. You can see like my lower lip, the way that it looks versus my upper lip. Upper lip is a little bit more classic. I feel like the lower lip, or what I want my lip combo to look like for today. So we're gonna go ahead and put it on my upper lip as well. I feel like this gives it more of that like cool gothy type of look, or soft gothy type of look. But anyway, this is what we came up with for today. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing me put together this look, and if you try it out, I hope you love it on yourself as well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are when you're watching this, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.